Good morning, children. Welcome to the English session. Today, we shall be dealing with the lesson The Making of a Scientist by Robert W. Peterson. It is a story of a curious child who is channelizing his curiosity to become a scientist. Richard Ebright was very close to her mother, and she plays a key role in developing his interest in science. So let's explore the lesson. Ebright's achievement at a young age. A former Scout of the Year excited the scientific world with a new theory. This he did at the age of 22 years. It was on how cells work. Richard H. Ebright and his college roommate explained the theory in an article. It was titled Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. It was his first achievement. It started with butterflies. Ebright was the only child of his parents. They lived north of Reading, Pennsylvania. Ebright wrote that there was nothing to do. He could not play football or baseball, but he could collect things. Ebright started collecting butterflies in kindergarten. He also collected rocks, fossils, and coins. He also became a stargazer and an eager astronomer. His mother encouraged him. She took him on trips. She also bought him telescopes, microscopes, cameras, and other equipments. Ebright sold his article at 15 to a scientific journal. It was like a home run scored in the game of baseball. Ebright's mother said that she was his friend until he started school. She would bring home friends for him. He was a whole life after her husband's death. Richie was in third grade then. Ebright's mother would find work for Richie if he had nothing to do. It was for learning. He wanted to learn. He earned top grades in school. When he was in second grade, he had collected 25 species of butterflies. These were found around his hometown. Then Ebright's mother gave him a children's book. It was The Travels of Monarch the Tenth. It told how monarch butterflies migrate to Central America. This opened the world of science to Ebright. At the end of the book, readers were invited to help study butterfly migrations. They were asked to tag butterflies for research. It was being done by Dr. Frederick A. Urquhart of Toronto University, Canada. Ebright started tagging monarch butterflies. Anyone who found a tagged butterfly was asked to send the tag to Dr. Urquhart. The butterfly collecting season around Reading lasts 6 weeks in late summer. Chasing them one by one won't enable one to catch many. So Ebright raised a flock of butterflies. He would catch a female monarch and take her eggs. He would raise them in his basement from egg to adult butterfly. Then he would tag the butterfly's wings and let them go. Soon Ebright began to lose interest in tagging butterflies. The reason was that there was no feedback. Only two butterflies had been caught. Their distance was not more than 75 miles from where he lived. In seventh grade, Ebright got a hint of what real science is. He entered a country science fair and lost. His entries were slides of frog tissues. He realized that the winners had tried to do real experiments, so he decided to do a real experiment. The subject was the insect work that he had already been doing. He wrote to Dr. Urquhart for ideas. Back came many suggestions for experiments. These kept Ebright busy all through high school. These also led him to prize projects in country and international science fairs. For his eighth grade project, Ebright tried to find the cause of a viral disease. It killed all monarch caterpillars. He thought the disease might be carried by a beetle. He tried raising caterpillars in the presence of beetles, but he didn't get any real results. But he showed his experiment and won. The next year, his science fair project was testing the theory. The theory was that viceroy butterflies copy monarchs. The theory was that viceroys look like monarchs because monarchs don't taste good to birds. Viceroys taste good to birds. So the more they look like monarchs, the less likely they are to become a bird's food. His project was to see if birds would eat monarchs. He found that a starling would not eat ordinary bird food. It would eat all the monarchs it would get. This project was placed first in the zoology division. It came third overall in the country science fair. In his second year in high school, Ebright began the research. It led to his discovery of an unknown insect hormone. Indirectly, it led to his new theory on the life of cells. The question he tried to answer was simple. What is the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa? Everyone assumed the spots were just ornamental, but Dr. Urquhart didn't believe it. To find the answer, Ebright and another student built a device. It showed that the spots were producing a hormone. It was necessary for the butterfly's full development. This project won Ebright first place in the country fair. It also won an entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair. There, he won third place for zoology. He also got a chance to work in Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. As a high school junior, he continued his advanced experiments on the monarch pupa. That year, his project won first place at the International Science Fair. In his senior year, he grew cells from a monarch's wing in a culture. He showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wing scales. This would be only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spots. That project won first place for zoology at the International Fair. He also worked at the Army lab and at the US Department of Agriculture's lab. The following summer, Ebright went back to the Department of Agriculture's lab. There he worked on the hormone theory. Finally, he was able to identify the hormone's chemical structure. A year and a half later, Ebright got the idea for his new theory about cell life. He did so while seeing the X-ray photos of this chemical structure. The photos gave him the answer to one of biology's puzzles. It was how the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. DNA is the substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. It is the blueprint for life. Ebright and his college roommate, James R. Wong, drew pictures and constructed plastic models. They made them to show how it could happen. Together, they later wrote the paper explaining the theory. Surprisingly, Richard Ebright graduated from Harvard with highest honors. He also became a graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical School. There, he began experimenting to test his theory. If the theory proves correct, it would be a big step towards understanding life process. It might also lead to new ideas. These would be new for preventing types of cancer and other diseases. Ebright has other interests also. He became a champion debater and public speaker. He also became a good canoeist and all round outdoors person. He is also an expert photographer of nature and scientific exhibits. Ebright also found someone to admire. He was Richard A. Wehrer, his social studies teacher. Ebright said about him that he opened his mind to new ideas. Richard A. Wehrer also spoke highly of Ebright about his interests. He won because he wanted to do the best job. These things are a necessity in the making of a scientist. Start with a first rate mind, add curiosity, and mix in the will to win for the right reasons. Ebright had these qualities. The summary of the story. The Making of a Scientist is a fascinating story of a young student who did marvelous work in the field of science. Richard Ebright, a solitary child, had a great fascination for catching butterflies in his childhood. Encouraged by his mother, he kept on enriching his treasures of rocks, fossils, coins, and butterflies. He was able to collect all 25 varieties of butterflies and thus started losing interest in collecting and tagging the butterflies. But with the guidance of Dr. Urquhart, he started doing more complex experiments on butterflies. This enthused him to open newer vistas of science and encouraged him as he was getting awards, one after the other, for his discoveries. Then he was lucky enough to get a chance to study DNA, and he gave a new theory about the form and function of cells. His childhood interest led him to become a full-time scientist. He was an excellent debater, speaker, and wonderful photographer too. Thus, we have come to the end of the session. Thank you and have a nice day.